Hey you guys, what's up? It's KShadow22 here, and welcome to the fourth lesson of ethical hacking. Now you guys, let's go ahead and do a little review of what we've been learning. First video was social engineering, where we learned just manipulation and engineering conversations to get what you want. Our second lesson was just talking about like an overview of how I'm teaching this and how to do it with good morals. The third one was all about phishing and how that's done. And today, you guys, we are learning about the home router and how you can just sniff packets and all sort of things like that. And I'll be demonstrating a few things with my own home router. So let's go ahead and get this started, you guys. Right off the bat, you guys, I'm going to give you a list of default IP addresses. The likelihood of one of these being your home router IPs is very likely. So you're probably wondering what you do with those. So for an example, I would just go on my web browser. You guys may actually have an actual address, but we'll get to that. So for me, I'm just going to go ahead and type my IP up here of my home router, which is 10.0.0.1. I'll hit enter and it'll direct me to our router, and because I have Xfinity, it just brings me straight to the login. Now, nobody else can get to this login really unless I made my I forget what it's called, but unless I made this public and I gave it an actual IP or an address. And so that takes some skill to configure all that and understand what you're actually doing, which we'll get on to that in a second. So with having a home router, you're sharing all sorts of information is going through new websites or visited every day. And so sometimes the curiosity of what other people are looking at in your family springs up, and it's like, hey, what's actually going through this network? And so that's when we have cool tools that allow us to view that kind of information. So the first one that's like the best friend for hacking networks is Nmap. And then there's a second part, like a second twin to Nmap, which is ZenMap. And basically ZenMap just has a GUI for you to see like visually function things better and just like see your controls to see what's happening. Just I would recommend ZenMap, and Nmap's okay if you're good with console and stuff like that. So what that program's basically going to do is it's going to allow you to sniff the network. And what sniffing the network means is like sniffing all the incoming data in and out of the network. So what that could look like is, let's say my brother's online on his computer right now, and he's on Google searching things. There's going to be data coming in and out of the network, and I can see what IP addresses are being accessed, what kind of data is going to be coming through, the protocols being used, and all sorts of like just kind of general information. Not super deep information, but enough to like get in a good understanding of what he's doing. And then the next common tools used for this kind of analysis is Enable or Wireshark. Now Wireshark is very advanced, I personally think. So if you really want to go very deep, use Wireshark. It lists every little detail going on your network. And Enable, what I like about Enable is that it can actually have the potential to sniff out peers, it can sniff out communications, and it can even sniff people's passwords very easily. And so what I mean about that is like, so let's say if I have Enable set up this way, so that way it's sniffing my brother's information. So let's say if he logs in on an HTTP server, which is not very common. I think it's HTTP, or it could be PS at the very end. I don't know. I'd have to open up Enable and look at that. But basically, either one, he logs in, it's going to show me his password because it wasn't a secure connection. And then Wireshark, it's more of like you really have to dig deep, but there's ways to decrypt that kind of information. You can right-click basically any line of code, and you have so many functionalities, it's insane. So here's another thing that I was going to talk about with this, how you can make this public. So let's say if I'm at a friend's house and I need to fix something on my home router back at home. What you can actually make this like is so you can access your home router from a different location. And that's when you make this public and you actually give this like a public address up here. It wouldn't be just an address. It could be a completely different IP, or it could actually be an actual address such as like facebook.com. It would be like a .com pretty much, if that makes sense to you guys. Trying to keep this on low terms so you guys understand this. But okay, so then next what we would have is okay. So the danger of that is because you have a username, a password, an IP, and then a port number. So like what a port number would look like is 630, 620, 39. So this would be my address and then my port number. This is my access. It's going to say, okay, you can access this IP through this port. And then beyond that, I have a login. But pretty much if anybody gets that address and that port number, all they have to do is brute force this and then they're in pretty much for the most part. So let's go ahead and take a view of what this actually can look like when I log in. So here I can see a bit of information. It's just displaying what kind of a home network I have set up. I have Ethernet, I have Wi-Fi. I don't have that enabled actually. My firewall is custom. I have certain things enabled, some not. So it's like there's a lot of information here that I could view. I could go to connected devices, see who's all connected to my network. I go set some controls, so maybe some websites can't be accessed, some can. That's more of like building a firewall. So let's say if someone wants to go learn how to make drugs, I can make it so they couldn't view that kind of information. Or let's say if I wanted to block Facebook, I could do that through parental control. Advanced is going to be more of like port forwarding and stuff like that. That's making your own server almost. And then troubleshooting, that's like performing diagnostics and stuff such as that. Of course, I'm not going to go into these because I don't need other people knowing about that kind of information about my own router. So you guys, this is not something you should just hand out to whoever, your friends, whatever. It's something that should be a family thing that you set up, or like you guys have a personal technician who comes in and sets this kind of stuff up. Because with me having access to this entire router now, it brings like my limits so much higher. Like the things I can actually do to this router now, I can perform a lot of chaos. It's so insane, you guys. So you have access to a router, your limits are broken pretty much, I would say. Next would be, let's say you don't know the logins for your router. You can always find the default ones online. So let's say if you have a Netgear router, you can just type in on Google, like type in Netgear, your router number, default username and password, and then it'll pop up. There's always websites that provide that kind of information. And so now you're probably wondering about like the firewall and stuff, like wondering if you can get past that and stuff. There's always ways to get past just about anything. So nothing's 100% secure out there nowadays. And so there's a software that I have not used it. I have downloaded it and I've looked at it, but now I don't have it on my computer anymore. But it's almost like a proxy-based tool. It's just like, I don't know if you guys ever used UltraSurf before. That's another good software to try out. But let's say if your administrator has Facebook blocked at school, using FreeGate or UltraSurf, you would be able to normally get around that. FreeGate is a really heavy-duty software, and you can even get around blocked websites, such as, like, let's say a website blocks you specifically. The FreeGate software actually has the power to get you around that. And so there's one software that I've heard a lot about and a lot of positive feed about is FreeGate. So if you guys are looking about getting around any kind of blocking or whatever, FreeGate's the tool for you guys. So let's go ahead and just go over all this, because this was a lot of information that you guys have never probably even heard of before, and maybe just adding a little bit more clarity. So you have your default IP. It's just an IP for your router. Your router has the IP, and that's how you access it. And because you're already connected through that port, you don't really have to type in the port. It's just kind of a given. Because you already have a connection established. Nmap is a great tool to map out all the data on your network and organize it really nicely. Common tools that are related to Nmap and ZenMap are Can-Enable and Wireshark. I prefer Can-Enable and Wireshark more than Nmap, but all like the hacker communities suggest Nmap. So, and then also, let's say you have your router open to the public, which means just having it online so you can access anywhere. That is a risk that you're always going to be taking because other people, it's not that hard to gain access to that sort of stuff. Then they could have control and they could be spying over your network, and then eventually they have your passwords, your data, and just sensitive information that they shouldn't have. If you don't know your router logins, you can always look that up online, and then also you can get around blocked websites in just about any country with FreeGate, and it's an awesome tool. UltraSurf is a good one. Basically, if you guys just type in like proxy tools on Google, you can find a whole list of them. Most of them are free because they're easy to program just as well. So anyways, you guys, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please comment, rate, and subscribe, and I will for sure see you guys next time in my next tutorial.